Tezuka Osamu was an anime legend. The grandfather of the industry, his work has shaped what anime has become today. We might be looking at a very different style of anime if he, let's say, didn't help popularize the use of big eyes in anime, one of the most recognizable parts of the anime style. And we might be looking at a very different anime history if Astro Boy, inarguably his most famous work, didn't help start the mecha genre. His work has undoubtedly shaped what anime is today. But it's not talked about. Today, his works have mostly been forgotten in modern anime discourse. But what would happen if we brought his work into the modern anime era? What if we took his work and remastered it, rewrote it so that it would not just succeed, but thrive in the modern anime scene? Something that would be so good that it would bring attention back to the works of this legendary mangaka. Well, a modern adaptation of one of his greatest works came to a streaming service that is extremely bad at marking their actually very good catalog of anime. And its name was Dororo. Dororo was a 24-episode show from winter 2019 that adapted the manga of the same name. It follows Hyakimaru, a boy born without eyes, a nose, limbs, even skin, after his father did a deal with the devil. 12 of them, to be exact. And if you watch the show, you wouldn't know that it was a Tezuka Osamu adaptation at all. It's dark and brutal and just amazing. With some of the most creative fight choreography in anime, beautiful watercolor backgrounds, and an amazing opening song, Fire by Queen Bee, this show has amazing production value. This show did the impossible and got popular on Amazon Prime. That does not happen. Mappa went way harder than they needed to on this series. It's just outside the top 100 most popular shows on Mal, which, yes, I know is a terrible indicator of really anything, but that's saying something. Now, the show is not perfect. In my opinion, the second half of the series kind of has some weaker writing in it, and the second opening is not nearly as good. That's very important. But overall, the show is still great. And more importantly, it brought Tezuka Osamu's work back into focus. But we can get even better. Dororo is not his most popular and famous work. Tetsuwan Atom, Astro Boy, stands at the pinnacle of his many, honestly pretty great manga. So what if we remastered it so that it would not just succeed, but thrive in the modern anime scene? And that anime came. Astro Boy 2003. On a weird note, Astro Boy was meant to be the somewhat near future, and takes place in the year 2003, which, as we're recording this at the very end of December 2023, is 20 years ago. This was a vision of the future, and we missed the mark. Instead of humanoid androids, we got MySpace and EVE Online. Honestly, I don't have a lot to say about this show. It did not take anime by storm. I didn't even know it existed before doing research for this video. It seems to be favorably rated by people who have seen it, so I'll take their word on it. It's probably fine, maybe even good. I'll never know because it's not available in the US and it seems like too much effort to try and find it. But what if we did that thing that Dororo did and update Astro Boy for the modern era? What if we take one of the greatest stories of the original manga and gave it to one of the greatest mangakas of all time and have them remaster it, rewrite it so that it would be updated for the modern audience? It could be so good that would bring attention back to the works of this legendary mangaka. Pluto is the work of the god Urasawa Naoki and adapts the Greatest Robot on Earth arc. Urasawa Naoki is on the short list of mangaka that you can say with a straight face is the greatest of all time, and people won't immediately ratio you into the ground. Monster, 20th Century Boys, 21st Century Boys, Asadora. This is a mangaka with multiple masterpieces under their belt. Pluto was similar to Astro Boy 2003 in that it was in honor of the series' 50th anniversary. But unlike the show, Pluto the manga made a splash. It became a veritable classic that fits alongside Urasawa Naoki's other works. And 20 years later, it got the anime adaptation it deserves. Pluto is a darker take on Astro Boy's world that reframes the story from the perspective of Interpol detective Gashit. It follows him as he uncovers a plot to destroy the 7 great robots, the most advanced robots in the world. It takes the ideas that made Astro Boy, and elevates them, exploring the humanity of robots, the core idea of the series. And if you disagree that that's the core idea, I don't know what to tell you. The very first thing in the manga is an explanation of how robots are just like humans. It's the first thing that they show you. It's not even subtext at that point, it's just text. Pluto takes this overarching idea and elevates it by showing how complex the robots of its world are. In the original manga, which, yes, I read for this video, I know what I'm talking about. There are a lot of times where we're told that these robots have emotions, feelings, that they're human. But we're being told. Pluto takes the shortcomings of the original story and fixes them. Like, okay, the main idea that the greatest robot on Earth is exploring is that power corrupts. And quite literally at that. Astro Boy is literally corrupted by getting too much power, injected right into his head. This manga is not subtle. Like, okay, there's some anti-weapon sentiments in here. Like, Pluto questions his function as a weapon after hurting Astro Boy's sister's feelings, or after he sees a kid crying. And that's really it. That's all the exploration that is done into this idea. In my opinion, it's fairly shallow. It's very cliche. Like, a kid crying is the most obviously bad thing. There's no nuance here. The robots that Pluto destroys are also almost all one note, with only 2 of the robots I would even call characters in their own right. Hercules is brave and honorable, and that's 2 traits, one more than 4 of the great robots. And then Epsilon is actually pretty well written. Pluto takes that idea that the original series is exploring, that power corrupts, and puts it on the back burner. We've seen too many series that explore that exact idea, and honestly better. It instead refocuses on the original idea that Astro Boy is exploring, the humanity of robots. Instead of mostly being made out of fight scenes, Pluto is now a character exploration story. It adds depth to the story by giving the characters actual characterization. Now Hercules is not just honorable and brave. He's a veteran trying to figure out the anger inside of him after coming back from a war, and what it means to be a fighter, what it means to be a living weapon. There's real depth in what was once a very shallow character. And all 7 of the great robots get this treatment. Even Mont Blanc, whose death is the opening scene of the show, gets more characterization in a slideshow than the entire original manga. He isn't even my favorite example. North number 2 goes from a short-lived character used to set up the routine that the rest of the story will follow into an honestly amazing short story about art and trauma. We see how he wants to find purpose, find meaning after coming back from war, and how music is his salvation. It shows what music, what art means to people. And that is beautiful. As we meet more and more of the 7 robots, we see how each of them has become more human after returning from war. And we get a look into their lives. Remember Epsilon, that character I said was well written? In the original story, we got to see Epsilon's life, how he improved the lives of those around him, and how those relationships influenced his actions. In other words, basic character writing. Now we get a higher level of writing for all the characters, not just Epsilon. The series is also just consistently beautiful. The art style fits the detective drama tone perfectly and helps bridge the elements of the original story into this more grounded, gritty world. And that world is thoroughly fleshed out. At first blush, the world of Pluto almost looks like a utopia, with robots assisting in almost every aspect of life, increasing productivity and helping the economy as a whole. But that veil gets quickly pulled back to show unrest everywhere. For example, robot racism is everywhere. There's also very interesting ways that world building is used to tell the story. Robots in this world have been given human rights and now are expected to act as humans, which doesn't really make total sense. Like, we get this great conversation about how robots don't need to drink tea, but it makes them fit in, so they do it anyways. And you would think that this would contradict the point that the show is trying to make, that it would show how different humans and robots are from each other. And it does. Only then it shows you how, despite this mountain of differences, they still mourn the loss of their loved ones. They still care. They still feel. They still have something human about them, despite being so different from us. It's this kind of world building that furthers the ideas that the show is trying to create, and is why the world that this show builds is so special. Pluto is a show that you should watch. It's not a big fight anime, and if you're looking for that, alright, don't watch it, go find something else. Otherwise, this show is for you. Netflix has something truly special on their hands. Strong, interesting characters, a vibrant, well-defined world, and one that has unresolved conflicts still lingering in the back. There are still stories to tell here. Let's not have Tezuka Osamu's works be forgotten again. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, you probably watched my Vampire in the Garden video. thank you for the huge support on that. I thought it would get like 1,000 views tops. I think it's right now at like 75,000 views. I don't know why. I think my video's okay at best. But for everyone who subscribed, thank you for the huge support this December. It really meant a lot to me and ended this year on a high note. And if you made it this far, I'd appreciate you subscribing, but that's on you. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. Anyways, thanks. Next video will not be in a month. See ya, have a good one.